All right, welcome to Forever Unbreakable, everybody. Tonight I'm joined by Christian, the executive director of my team Triumph. He is a man that I have looked up to in more ways than I can count. He's one of the people who, because of seeing what he was doing at Ironman, it allowed me to believe in myself and my abilities to go out and do Ironman. And we're going to get into how he did it, what he chose to do. And he is a guy that when I started with Nick, he is a guy that we turned to numerous times with tons of questions of how do we do this, how do we do that, and his drive to consistently give back to the community in more ways than just my team Triumph is absolutely remarkable. So welcome to the podcast, Christian. Like I said, you're the man.
Thanks, Will.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for what you've done. It's a tough task, especially, the first year or two, 3 years of grinding, trying to create something.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about, what led you to the day that you thought, hey, I'm going to go out and start this My Team Triumph thing. I'm going to go out and I'm going to try and create something bigger than myself and give back. What brought you to that day?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because sometimes I look back on these things and you think, do we choose these paths or do they choose us? And it all really starts back to when I was working at Bell and Health as a personal trainer, and I had a woman named Mary who called me up and she said, I want to get stronger and lose weight. And I said, great. I was so excited because she was my first client.
Really? I did not know she was your first client.
My very first client. I interned at Bellin and I started working right after my internship. They offered me a job and I was like, yes, I got a job and
finally going to use this college degree.
I was sitting around at the front desk and the phone rings and this woman calls up and she's like, I'm looking for a personal trainer. So I'm like, all right, here we go. And she didn't tell me she had muscular dystrophy. And so I got to know her very intimately because she came in and we were just talking and I could tell that something was different with her. And my experience working with people with disabilities was very rare. I was honestly probably as a young person afraid of, you see people that are different. You see people that look different, that act different. And I think the natural reaction is, I don't know what to say. Or what am I going to say? Can I say something?
Exactly. I was honestly afraid when I came to my first My Team Triumph thing. I was honestly afraid of if I had to take the person out of the chair to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
What do I do? I have zero experience. So I completely get that. That is
And it's often like those little things too, like can they talk? What do they say? And these are often like barriers that I discovered as I was getting to know Mary that I started to kind of realize in my past that really held me back from kind of interacting with someone. And so got to know her and really started to obviously train her physically and worked on a few things that helped her. The first thing we worked on was really helping her to lift things to her mouth. So she was living at home and she was home alone for a lot. And so the biggest thing we worked on was going hands together, gripping something at her desk and then lifting it to her mouth so she can eat. That took 3 months to work on.
It's such a small task. Something we take for granted. To me, I just fork and food. You know.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow.
And there was so much personal reflection because you talk about take for granted. So here I am in a industry as a personal trainer. I thought, I'm going to work with top-notch athletes. I was a All-American national champion in track and field when I was in college.
Really? I didn't know that either.
Yeah, discus. I was a meathead.
Really?
I was a meathead. Yeah, I was not a runner. But I was like, I want to work with top-notch athletes. That was my thing.
Yeah.
I started interning at Bellin, and I was also working in their athletic performance area because I thought, I'm going to work with athletes.
Yeah.
And, here I am meeting with my first client who has all she can do is move her fingers and her toes.
That's insane.
I never thought I was going to, and here I am I get mad when, I can't hit my bench max, or
having a bad day in the gym.
It really helped talking to her and seeing how her life challenges are.
Yeah.
Things like, how am I going to eat today? You know,
It's
you know,
crazy.
I wake up in the morning and I literally need help doing. I can't get out of bed. I mean, that's like her life.
Yeah.
And so
How old was she when she first came in there?
she was in her late 50s,
Yeah. And
and
50, like, that's crazy.
yeah, and she was diagnosed in her 20s. And one of the things, like, she'd tell me all these stories, and one of the things that she said to the doctor when finally figured out what it is that she had, because back then muscular dystrophy was not a common diagnosis. They didn't know a lot about it. And so they weren't like, yeah, this is muscular dystrophy. She was misdiagnosed all the time.
Yeah.
And so finally they were like, all right, this is muscular dystrophy. And so our first question was, is it going to kill me? And oh, that sounds like a normal question to ask.
Absolutely.
But from Mary's perspective, it was, tell me if this is going to kill me. And if it's not, I'm just going to forget about it.
Yeah.
I'm just moving on with my life. And that was something that was super powerful to me, because I would not react that way, I think.
Yeah.
Mary has such strength and determination. I always tell her and I hope she hears this, because she's a huge pain in the butt. She really is. And
I do remember you saying that at your
oh
gala
my
too.
gosh, she's such a pain in the butt. And when working with her, when training with her, I mean, we would argue all the time, and she would want to, and then when we started racing, she'd want to go do these races. And I'm like, Mary, we just did like 100-mile bike ride, like last week. Like, we're not going to go do a marathon. Or if like someone would pass us, she'd be like, all right, that's 3 people that passed
Yeah.
us so far. It's like, seriously, Mary, like, come on, And so she's a huge pain in the butt. But I mean, to get back to your question, we had done the marathon in 2009, my wife and I, pushing Mary. And it was a big goal that we had. It was my first marathon. It was Mary's first marathon, obviously. And when we crossed the finish line, Mary got out of the chair. We walked her across. It was a surprise to her. And it was like 6 hours in. We were like, there was like no one around.
Yeah.
I mean, like that was the time when the marathon and the half started at the same time.
Okay. So everybody's
So all the
done.
half people are gone, and
Yeah.
most of the full people are gone. And so there were like 5 spectators around,
Yep.
And so we came through, and
And you're like the first person doing this. So like this
Oh,
has
yeah.
never been done at the Cellcom Green Bay Marathon before.
Well, and the funny thing is, we didn't realize this, but they didn't. It was a non-stroller allowed race. We didn't even think about asking or looking it up to see if there was
just
stroller.
showed up
We
with the
just
thing.
registered Mary, and we just did it. I mean, that's how ignorant we were, right?
That's awesome.
And we were just like, yeah, we're going to do this. And, I'm grateful they didn't like contact us and we're like, no, you can't do this,
Yeah.
because that could have been the end of it right there.
Yeah,
But
like my Team Triumph might not have existed had
Yeah.
they have said something
Yeah.
like that. Wow.
so we did the race, we crossed the finish line, and Mary said, I really wish more people could experience what I just had. I mean, for Mary, what I realize is that she knows she's not going to be able to move her arms and the legs in the way that she used to be able to do, because she's just like you and I.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine if you get to know her, the kind of personality she has, and then you give her full physical ability. I mean, she'd be running circles around us.
Yeah.
She would be multiple Ironmans. She would be like crazy,
Like nonstop.
Yeah, but what she ultimately wants is to feel like she still has something to contribute.
Yeah.
She still has value,
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that binds us all. No matter what our ability level is, no matter what our belief system is, no matter what our background is we have this kind of like innate desire to want to contribute something to the world.
Yeah,
And
I absolutely agree.
and with Mary in that race, she could see how people would go by and they would just instantly start crying, or they would see this video and they would get emotional and they would contact us. And she could tell, like, all right, my disability doesn't define who I am, but it does inspire other people to become something they're not,
Yeah.
and so
It's huge.
Yeah.
Like you said, when people see it, I remember the first time that I saw anything my Team Triumph type was the Team Hoyt stuff. And I
Yep.
was like, this is insane. Like
Yep.
this is this is, the most remarkable thing in the world. And then I want to say it was like 6 months later, I saw that you were doing Ironman that
Yep.
way. And I was like, I got to meet this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Ironman was such an amazing journey. It's funny because when I was training Mary, my wife and I were at church one day and we saw this video of Team Hoyt and they were doing the Ironman.
Yeah.
And then I went back to Mary and I showed her the video. I said, I've heard of this. She's like, yeah, I think I have. And she's like, what are they doing? And I'm like, they're doing an Ironman. And it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and 26.2 mile run. She goes, when can we do that?
So prior to seeing this Team Hoyt, did you think about ever doing anything at that level?
Never.
Had you even done a triathlon?
I hadn't done a 5K at that point. I mean, I was not a runner. When I was in college, I was 285 pounds
Yeah.
of just, anything that lasted more than 6 seconds was a waste of time.
That's
when you
crazy.
throw, it's all power, it's all short,
Yeah.
it's all intense.
I just can't ever picture you that way because I look at you now and you've done 2 different Ironmans with my team Triumph as an angel, like solo. I can't ever imagine you doing anything but endurance sports.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy to think that at one time you were that, and now you've transitioned into, an athlete, an endurance athlete that has gone further distances, and we'll talk about those, as we progress. But like, I can't picture you as and I'm picturing shot putters and discus throwers in the Olympics and stuff, and NCAA level athletes, and they are, they're yoked. Like, I would not want to get in front of one of them.
They're big, and that was the lifestyle. But I think that helped me in this because, when we get to the point where we were, in Madison and we're on the second time on the loop, and you're going up, Midtown Road.
Which is, for those of you that don't know, Madison is a very hilly bike course, and these are hills that I would say 15% of people get off their bikes and walk. Like nasty hills, and you got to do them twice back when you did it, because I know they switched over to Barlow and stuff now. But it's a tough course. I could not imagine. I hate doing it on my own bike without a trailer.
Yeah, it's insane, and when you get to that point where you're basically, if you understand cycling, we were putting out probably 1,200 watts, going up that hill. That's something that I know that my power background has allowed me, has helped me.
Yeah.
Can I, squat and clean and what I used to? No, but I do know that has definitely helped me as an athlete to become, a better angel. I'm not fast by any means. People think, oh my gosh, and like people say like, oh, I can't imagine how fast you would be if you rode on your own. It's like, well, I'm not fast. I am not, but I'm basically a bulldozer. I'm a tank. I can push weight. I can pull it. I can probably sometimes go faster pushing a chair and pulling a trailer than I would if I were on my own. It's just,
that's crazy.
And
you can just go all day. Like, I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. Ironman took you, like, let's talk about Ironman day, or like the experience leading up to it and then the day, because you were out there deep into, the sun had set. The course is vacating. There's a lot less spectators. As I learned with my last Ironman, it does get thin out there.
It does.
And it's a battle deep in the day to, where you're figuring out who you are, for something much bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
But like, talk about that experience. 'Cause that's a remarkable experience.
I get goosebumps still thinking about that race because, there's stories on every leg. So, we have the 2.4 mile swim, and we were late getting to the water, and there's nothing more. You don't want to have unexpected things when you're doing a race like that, right? You plan out all the details because you want to control everything that you can possibly control, right?
Absolutely. Everything.
And you don't want to have any anxieties. You don't want to do that. And so we get down to the water, literally, and we're supposed to be out by where the boat ramp is, where all the elites are, and we're supposed to be right behind them. And we literally get to the water's edge, and the gun goes off.
The main gun.
The cannon goes off, and the pros go, and we're supposed to be right behind them. So we're 5 minutes. That's it, 5 minutes, And in Ironman, you have to make these cutoffs, and so I was keenly aware that, hey, I got to make up this time,
Yeah.
and so, all right, I mean, I can be pissed at myself. I can be all crabby. But I remember this moment right before we got into the water. I was cleaning out my goggles. And I looked back at my wife and I just gave her a smile. And I was just like, I cannot believe we're doing this right now.
Yeah.
And just, it was this awesome feeling. So we get into the water and it was a great swim. And, just like most races, I started out really fast. I got about a quarter of the way through. Fast for me. And I just, all right, slow down, get into your speed, get into your breathing, get into your rhythm.
Yeah.
And about halfway through, the regular age groupers pass us or catching up.
Okay.
And there are kayaks and resting rafts and things all around the place for people to, if the swimmers are having problems, they can
Yep.
hang on and take a break. And about 5 times during the race, people thought our boat was one of those
Was
boats.
a break.
Yeah.
Oh no! So you're just pulling extra people.
So I'd be going
along.
along. All of a sudden, I feel this and I look back, and there's a guy hanging on the boat talking to Mary. I'm like, all right, buddy. Come on, get off the boat.
I got to make time hacks, and I'm most worried
Yeah.
about the ones on the bike, I would assume.
Yeah, we're trying to get as much of that time as we can because we know the bike's going to be tough. But funny because I end up talking to Mary later on, and she's like, yeah, some guy asked me if he could have a ride. Some guy asked me if I had a beer. Some guy was just so confused about what in the heck was he didn't know what was going on.
Because to a normal person doing Ironman, a lot of people that haven't done it or done triathlon say it's insane.
Yeah.
You're stupid to do it because it's just crazy. To do it as an angel, I looked at it like that's impossible. Like Team Hoyt is an anomaly that they're one, and now you see tons of people that have, put in the time and the hard work before.
Yeah.
To be able to provide that for somebody else, and that's huge. So continue. I think it's crazy when you look at.
It's so humbling. Yeah, it's so humbling, and we knew that the most humbling part was going to be the bike ride. We had done some training, and through my training, I realized that I knew what the cutoff had to be. I knew. And I was trying to figure out what was the speed I needed to average in order to make this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other factors because you got to consider, what if I have a mechanical issue? What if Mary has to go to the bathroom? What if we get lost? I mean, all these things you have to kind of consider, and you have to hope that those variables don't come into play, because if they do, that's the end of your day.
Yeah.
And so I knew that we had to average about 13 and a half miles an hour, which doesn't seem fast.
But pulling a trailer, that's it.
Yeah, but 3 weeks earlier, I had done a 90-mile bike ride with an empty trailer. Very hilly course, similar to Madison. I averaged about 12 and a half miles an hour.
So you had to be just nervous going
And so I'm like, all right, this isn't going to cut it. So in those last 3 weeks, we modified a super light pushchair that we had to become a trailer,
Really?
which was half the weight of the trailer that we were using.
Yeah.
And that was a chair that, gave us that extra little bit, right? So we're out on the bike course.
That's crazy. 3 weeks out, you're making serious modifications to.
Yeah, because no one ever done it. We never knew. We were the first team to ever do this. And so we get out on the bike course, and we're moving along well. We get through the first loop, and we had a planned bathroom break, first time in Verona, which is 50-ish. And stopped, Mary used the bathroom, got going again. And I got back into, I was at 65, and I started to feel like, I am bonking here. And it's if you don't know what that is, you're basically running out of energy.
Yeah.
And you have a very short window to kind of recover that. Thankfully, I was able to kind of cram some nutrition down and kind of save that. And we're on the back side of the race, really in the last quarter. And I'm looking at my watch, and I'm going, man, this does not look good. We were not on pace. I mean, we were literally 10 minutes beyond making the cutoff at that point.
Damn.
I mean, estimated finish, right? And so I remember we got to the first of the three big hills, which have another name, but
Yeah.
I won't repeat. And there was a guy on that hill, and there's usually a lot of spectators. Second time around, when no one's there, there's not a lot.
Yep.
But there was a guy on the hill. He had a big old afro, and he was just came up to us, and he was super pumped. He was like, awesome, and he was coaching us, and he was giving me encouragement and gave me some tips, and that kind of helped me get a little bit more of a boost.
Yeah.
Got to the second hill, and there was another person that I'll never forget, and they were there in the third hills. All these people on the course that were really, really encouraging, kept us going, and we got back into Verona. We had the stick left, which is the last, like, I don't know, 13, 14, 15
Yep.
miles. And I knew that was flatter than
Yeah, you
the
got
previous.
that one big picket fence hill.
Yep. I knew it was flatter, somewhat downhill, and there was a bit of a tailwind. And so I'm like, you know what? I made a decision right there. I said, all right, I'm either going to make this and just put every single thing I have out on this bike,
Yeah.
or I'm going to, basically just die.
So you're not even thinking about the run right now.
Oh
You're
no!
like, I'm just going to throw
I
it
did
all
not,
out here.
No, I did not think about the run, and I had never pushed myself so hard in that 14, 15 miles. And I remember we were, coming up John Nolan, and we could see the terrace, and there was literally like 4 minutes left.
That's crazy.
I mean, I'm looking at my watch. There's 4 minutes left. And so I'm just hammering it, and I'm going up. We get to the helix, and you're going up the helix, and you cross the finish line. I don't know if my watch is right or if the clock is right. And you make that turn, and you know it because you've been there.
Yep.
And you see the finish line, and I knew my family was going to be there and all of our crew, and they just go, yeah.
Knowing that you got to the
Oh,
run.
and I'm just like, oh, we did it. and went across the finish line, and I fell over. But then you got to get up. But the thing is, you have to get out of transition.
Yeah, in like 10 minutes.
You have 10 minutes to get out.
Yeah, so
And
if you've got 30 seconds left, you got 10 minutes and
Yeah.
30 seconds to
So we-
change her out
Yes,
too.
yeah. And so our crew took Mary, helped her, and then I went and did my thing, and thankfully we got it on the course. And I remember that first mile, I was so jacked on adrenaline. I ran like an 8-minute mile, which I never do, right? And I ran that mile, and then I just went, whoa! Like I just like completely.
I think that happens to everybody.
Yeah, But yeah, I mean, I was so jacked at that bike ride, and left nothing, out on the table. I put it all out there, and that told me a lot. And funny story is, we were coming up to Verona the last time, and we had planned to stop again
Yeah.
at that same place to have Mary go to the bathroom. And I knew if we stopped, it was over. We were not going to make that. And
Yeah.
so I said to Mary, Mary's a competitor. And I said, it's been a while. It's been 50 miles. It's been,
Good, probably
2-3 hours,
Yeah.
But, and I said, Mary, how you doing? You need to go to the bathroom. And she's like, yeah. And I said, do you really need to go to the bathroom? Because if we stop,
Race is over.
we're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And she was quiet for a while, and she said, let's go.
That's so
She
awesome.
said, let's go.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, here we go. And so, that's so.
So that's got to
thankfully-
be burning in your head those last 14 or 15 miles too.
yeah.
It's like she passed up on this
Yeah.
so that you guys could get there together.
And that's the thing. Like, Mary knew, because we had done training, we had done long bike rides together. She knew that she was going to be tired. She was going to be hungry. All the same things that all the athletes go through.
Absolutely.
She was sore. She was sunburned. She was, sweating, all that stuff. And to see that she was willing to be uncomfortable and to go through discomfort and pain really fired me up. And
Yeah,
I was like,
that's
all right, if
awesome.
she can go through that, I can push
Yeah.
a little harder, And so, yeah, I mean, we got out on the run and just kind of did 1 mile at a time. That was our goal. Goal was just to finish it. And
there's a bunch of cutoffs you got to make on the run too. So
Yeah.
you're already kind of like backed up against the wall time wise.
yeah, but we knew, if you make the cutoff on the bike, you've got at least 6.5 hours, 6 to 6.5 hours to make the run. And so we were like, we had a strategy, and, we knew that if we were to get through the first half on time, then, feeling good, then we were good, So we did that. And the second half, we slowed down a little bit, kind of took our time, enjoyed it. But I don't know if you experienced this, but one of my favorite parts of Ironman is the people you meet on the run course
It is, absolutely.
and the
Yeah.
stories they share. And
Yeah.
especially, what time did you finish?
My one when I carried the pack was
Yep.
15:30.
15:30. So later in the day.
Way later in the day.
It was
and
dark.
The slow people that you're walking with, the people that have been
Yep.
on the course the longest, struggling the most, their stories to me, their training stories to me that they shared, I was just like,
You
wow,
got a chance to talk to them.
proud of you, man. Like, or woman, like very proud of you getting here to this point. Like, stay strong and go finish. Because there's
Yeah.
people passing me the whole time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that was one of the things that was really humbling to me because, we had this feeling like we were doing something that was very special, and
Yeah.
one could say it was.
It absolutely was.
But also, I mean, everyone has a special story.
Yeah.
And you just don't, sometimes you don't hear about it. We went by this guy and he had this picture. This was like mile 21. It was
Okay.
out in the trail, the area
Yep.
along the lake. And it was dark and, they had a couple lights with a generator and we could see this guy, he was kind of shuffling and he had this picture of this little boy on his back and the boy had a shaved head and you kind of assume there's some cancer story there.
Yeah.
And so he was one of these stories. We ran up next to him and like, hey, how you doing? And he's good, and just kind of encouraging one another. I said, why are you out here? And he said, you see that picture of that boy on my back? He said, yeah. He said, that was my son. He died last week.
Damn.
I am here for him.
That's crazy. That just gave me a chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
like,
got a chill.
whoa.
from
And
it.
you talk about what do you say?
Yeah.
Just like Mary starts crying. I start crying. He's looking at Mary. He's crying.
And it's super
You want to see
emotional.
more grown men crying.
Yeah.
You go to Ironman.
Yeah. It's one of the most emotional places. Like
Oh.
when I did it the first time, I was like out on a mission to just crush, and did it by myself. For myself.
Yeah.
And I was in tears a couple of times, especially coming out of that finish. When I did it under pack, the people that would take their hats off, people sitting down would stand up.
Yeah.
Because I had the big American flag coming out of the top. And like every time people would do that, I would just start crying. And I was like, I can't be emotional. I'm not going to finish.
Yeah. Now you're still a beast of an athlete, but you've done more things that aren't just about your time.
Yeah.
Lately.
Yeah.
Obviously the most recent little run you did with, a little backpack on.
Yeah. Yeah, that was stupid.
But do you find that you get more out of that experience that's not fast necessarily, but has a different impact?
Absolutely. I won't do pretty much anything for myself anymore, race wise. I don't enjoy it. Like I go out and I'm like, I get halfway through and I'm like, I could be impacting somebody's life right now. And it's so easy to do it. Like you guys offered that. It's not even an argument. You guys offer the easiest platform to help somebody. And it is the most life-changing experience. So for anybody listening right now, like if you haven't done a My Team Triumph event and you're currently out running or out doing anything, or even not, and you just want to get into it, it doesn't matter how fast you go. None of the captains care. Well, I think there's one, and we push him at Bellin, but they
Mary likes to go fast, but she either wants to win or she wants to be the last person. She's either going to be first place or she's going to be out there the longest.
Really?
So she's got to win in some way.
That's awesome. That's super awesome though. But like it's so moving to go out and do an event that way that it's like it's super hard to go do it any other way.
Yeah.
And so the last 3 years now we've rucked the Cellcom as a fundraiser to help veterans and raise awareness of veteran issues. And it's got a tremendous impact that we've had, but it's got and the one thing that I said in the World Record podcast is like, it's got a bigger impact on me with all the inspiration that it's providing. I've had tons of people in the last few days send me registering for a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, full marathon, Tough Mudders, triathlons, all because they're like, we saw you carry 100 pounds. Yep. I'm 50 pounds overweight. I can carry this weight and still achieve that same goal.
That's it.
And I'm like, absolutely. So it's way better. And so you
Absolutely.
obviously know that.
It's almost that indirect mission, right? I mean, you guys are obviously there to serve veterans, you want to raise funds and raise awareness to help them. But you have that other group of people that see it, that experience it, and they're impacted to do something else. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's my experience, and from hearing your story, I think that's one of the more rewarding things. And that there are people that may not ever tell you,
Yeah.
hey, this impacted me, but that they are.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
you hear it once in a while, and then you see people, and then once in a while someone will come back and say that.
yeah, like your first Ironman was like my first introduction to you, and I didn't know you, I didn't like meet you, I saw you, and I was like, this is a guy that I aspire to be like. This is a man that I want to be like because he's going out and doing something so great and so selfless, like, and in the end, and I tell this to a lot of people, I'm like, the selfless act is also selfish in a way because the pride and joy that I get inside by every person that I have inspired or shown that something is possible, like, I get all the good feelings inside of me that make it, in one way selfish. But by doing something selfless, and I tell it to people, I'm like, if you go do something selfless, the reward is so great that it almost feels like it's selfish
Yeah.
because the reward is so great.
Yeah.
You know,
It's kind of hard to see past the initial sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like donating, right? I mean, we're like, I'm giving up something,
Yep.
and you have to trust that by giving something up, you're going to receive something that is unexpected, but is far greater than what you gave,
Exactly.
And I agree with you, and I think that's so. One of the things I love about what you're doing, and I think we kind of have a similar story as well, because I know that your wife is very invested into this
Absolutely. As
mission
yours
as well.
has to be.
Yeah,
They have to be.
and we see it as a part of who we are, and
Yeah.
it's our mission. Like Tiffany and I talk about it, and now Tiffany's doesn't do as much of the crazy kind of long distance stuff, but if she wasn't there, I couldn't do that stuff. I mean, and
Absolutely. Because
I
the
mean,
training hours, like, she
absolutely.
has to support that you're going to go out and bike for 6 hours on a Saturday when you guys could be going up camping or doing whatever. And you spend every weekend all summer at a race, both days of the weekend,
Yeah.
usually. Like, I see it and I'm blown away because it's constant. You are at everything. And your team of volunteers and staff and everybody that's involved, captains, angels, like, I mean, just like, say some of those numbers of that you told me before, the number of captains and number of angels that are
Yeah.
a part of my team triumph every year.
Yeah, it's about 500 captains and 1,600 angels.
Yeah, and you guys manage
50
all
events.
all those logistics. Like, how many?
It's a lot.
How many teams do you have doing the Bellin this year?
We'll have 42. That's our goal. 42. We're gonna go
That's insane.
one every year, because it's the 42nd anniversary. And so when it turned 40, we said let's do 40, and we kind of went from like 28 to 40, and we want to do one more every year. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that really keeps me going as well with MTT is those people, like
Yeah.
obviously our captains and angels, but I have met the most selfless people that have become a member of our board, that have become our staff, that have
Yeah.
become what we call our crew, who are volunteer leaders. And to see what these guys sacrifice,
Equally as much.
oh,
And
it's
and-
crazy.
And I wish people could see, like, they're not athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, many of them are not athletes, but they'll go out and run a full marathon
Mm-hmm.
with MTT, just, doing their part and helping out on a team so that a captain gets that experience.
Yeah.
And people, they don't have to be athletes. Like,
They don't.
An athlete by definition. To me, they're all athletes because they're out there getting after it.
Mm-hmm.
But the way an athlete is defined
Right.
is, some like Greek god almost is how most people define like an athlete.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, these people are just as much an athlete as me or you or anybody else that's out putting in the time. It doesn't matter. And it's so remarkable to see these people that they're not fast, but they're out there grinding and making sure that the
Mm-hmm.
captain is taken care of and that the
Right.
primary mission is those captains
Mm-hmm.
and their experience in the
Yeah.
event. And it's the coolest thing that you see because they are so selfless, so humble
Mm-hmm.
about the whole experience, and they make sure that it's all about the captain. And that's where you see things like the Brian McWilliams where he got pushed in by Jacob
Mm-hmm.
through the finish and still qualified for Boston. And
Yep.
like it's those moments that you guys are able to capture. Mary going down the finish line
Mm-hmm.
of Ironman,
Mm-hmm.
like it's special.
It
It
is.
really
It
is.
is. Yep. It
Man, so
definitely it
cool.
definitely is. And I think I don't know if you experienced this, but one of the things that I had after the first Ironman, and I've had many times since then, and we talked about this in our lead up to this conversation, is I took Monday off after the race, obviously because you're kind of finishing on Monday,
Yeah,
but
really, that's exactly what's happening.
yeah, I went back to work on Tuesday, and I remember kind of going in and clocking in and just kind of going into the gym
Yeah,
and you go from being around tens of thousands of people who are giving everything, and the spectators too. I mean, they're
absolutely.
there.
It's a full day.
They are there because they believe that life isn't about just living the mediocre. It's about finding big mountains to climb and doing things that you never thought that you could do and just going for it and seeing what happen.
Yeah,
And then you come into an environment which, you know, it's just very different. It's back in the world, if
yeah,
you will. And it's funny because I remember going into that experience, going back to work and like kind of dealing with some of the normal work stuff and then like going home that night and talking to Tiffany and just going like, man, like I am really struggling here, like because you go from feeling like you're doing something that has this big purpose to now it's
yeah,
like you're almost unnoticed. And I remember thinking like in a tiny fraction of a way, this might be what people, who are
yeah,
veterans go through. I mean, the
yeah.
things that they see are far,
Yep, you have
more
these
crazy than the things that I've done.
huge adrenaline.
But then you come back and it's like, now it's like, "Meow."
Yep,
It's like, hey, do you want fries with that? Like,
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
it's like, what? Like,
yeah,
like seriously, like, and to go from a time of significance to a time of mediocrity, I guess,
super
is a
quickly,
tough thing to
super
do when
quickly.
you do these crazy events.
Yeah,
We always encourage our teams to do events beyond the race, beyond the big race. The
yep,
Ironman, all of our Ironman teams, we say we want you to get together for 1 to 2 events after. So pick a short race like a 5K, 10K,
okay,
whatever, because the goal of what we're trying to do is really to build these relationships. That's our mission. It's to build impactful
absolutely.
relationships. And so the experience of the race is part of that. It's what forges that relationship. But we don't want it to end there. We don't want it to be like, all right, that was great. Thanks. Nice
No,
knowing you.
exactly, and that's important for these captains because they
Absolutely.
oftentimes don't have the friend base. As I've
Mm-hmm.
gotten to talk to people with all sorts of disabilities and what
Mm-hmm.
they suffered through, they often don't have any friends
Yeah.
or very minimal friends, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, so that's super important that
Yeah.
providing an additional friend or friends
Yeah.
to these people, and I see it all the time. I see it with the various angels that have done it numerous times. They have
Mm-hmm.
a very very strong bond with the captain, and
They do.
they oftentimes trying to get the same captain. They're
They
like,
do.
let me have this captain. This is the guy I want to be partnered
Mm-hmm.
with, and
Yep.
I think that that's super cool.
Yeah. There's definitely. I mean, you get to know. You get to know. There obviously Mary. I have a strong relationship with. Ian is another captain. I did Boulder Ironman with Ian, and I you go through something that is challenging. It changes who you are. It changes the way you have to think, you have to act, and you have to commit something of yourself that is risky and takes you outside of your comfort zone a little bit, and at least a little bit, and doesn't have to be crazy like an Ironman, but at least a little bit. You know, like sometimes people that come and do a race with us, even just meeting someone
Yeah.
with a disability. I don't know how this person can talk. I mean, that takes them outside of their
It
comfort
took
zone.
me out of my comfort zone big time my first time. I remember being super nervous about going to do my first MTT event. And you show up and everybody welcomes you from the MTT staff. And this is like 2014. So not nearly the size that you guys are today. And the staff is the same exact way then as they are today. Just super welcoming, and like they bring you in right away, and you get comfortable pretty quickly. But I remember going in and being like, I've never dealt with a person with a disability. I don't know what
Yeah.
type of disability they're gonna have.
Yeah.
You know, how am I gonna react to that? Like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And I remember being nervous, and at 3 minutes in, I was like, "Why was I nervous?
Yeah.
These people are awesome. They're no different than
Exactly.
me. You know, they weren't blessed with what I'm blessed with, and you know, as unfortunate as that is, there's a normal person yet, and they have a phenomenal personality, and it took less than 3 minutes,
Yeah.
probably, to be completely comfortable
Yeah.
and ready to go.
And so those deficiencies that you thought you had in terms of how do you work with someone with a disability, you realized very quickly were non-existent. I
Yeah.
mean, that was just something that you put in your brain.
Absolutely.
Something you thought you had, but you realized as you got to know that person that that was not there.
Yeah.
And so the beauty of that is while you're realizing that about yourself, you are helping that person to realize that about themselves.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what we're trying to also, I mean, there's this mutual kind of mission that we're trying to do is like we self-reflect a little bit. You think like, wow, you know, what is life like for me? What are the things that are holding me back? And then some of our captains, like if they can gain some extra confidence, you know, like, all right, you know, like I had an experience with hundreds of people or thousands of people in a race that were cheering for me. I got a medal, you know, like how does that change? Like when you feel like you are a world record holder,
Yeah.
you're going to go into Starbucks differently. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, just as, I mean, you know, I'm not like in an arrogant way, of course,
No,
but
but-
you feel like, hey, I can do almost anything.
Yeah, whatever
now.
you put your mind to. Like
Absolutely.
I honestly 100% believe whatever I put my mind to, I can
Mm-hmm.
do. So I've never done an ultra marathon. I've never gone more than 26.2 miles of running.
Yeah.
And I signed up for a 100-miler 4 days later because I was like, stop me. Like I
Yep.
can't wait to find where I
Yeah.
break. And it's the next thing, like, and that's what you've had to do numerous times, because like, talk about what led to having to do Everest, like, because you Everested
Yeah.
on a bike trainer,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
not
It
on
was-
a road. You did it on a
Yeah.
bike trainer.
Well, you know, and again, it was just one of those things that was like, I'm trying to do a double Ironman right now. And
So I did not know that.
yeah.
So where are you doing the double Ironman?
We're still kind of deciding that. We were going to do it around the Fox Cities Marathon and finish with that and kind of do our own.
Okay.
But we have to make some changes, but we're going to do it with a captain. It's going to be 3 of us as an angel team.
Nice.
We might do a destination event. We're still trying to kind of determine that. But, you know, and just like, all right, I need to put in some trainer miles. You know, you're on a bike and you do some indoor riding. It's not always fun. And then I found this thing
It's
called
miserable.
Zwift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found this thing called Zwift, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. And so I got Zwift, and I got a smart trainer, and started riding on that a bit. And you start to think, what's like the big thing
Yeah.
out there? You
Yeah.
know, what's the big thing out
What
there?
is the biggest thing?
And I heard someone talking about this Everesting. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
And so for those of you who don't know, Everesting is, you know, you can't, so Mount Everest being the tallest mountain in the world, you can't ride your bike up that, obviously. You can climb it and stuff, but, you know, there's no roads to ride your bike.
Yeah. Exactly. It
but-
takes years of preparation to
Oh,
hike
gosh,
it.
yeah.
Just to hike it.
But someone came up with this idea to let's take a hill or a mountain and repeatedly climb that hill
Yeah.
until we accumulate the climbing elevation of Mount Everest. and we're going to call that an Everest.
Yeah.
And then someone said, well, why don't we create a virtual Everest, which is basically on a trainer on something like Zwift. And, so I was kind of toying with the idea, and we had this thing called the Give Big Green Bay,
Yep.
which was a big fundraising effort that we were part of. And, you always try to think about how you can do something that'll raise a little bit of awareness. And sometimes it's a mix of crazy. There's a little crazy in there. There's a little bit of fun, a little bit of everything to kind of raise that awareness. And so, I said, I think I can do this Everesting thing.
Yeah.
I think I can do this Everesting thing. And so I began training for it about 2 months out, which is not ideal. Usually you train for longer for that.
I was going to say 2 months is crazy.
It's basically training like 2 months for an Ironman.
But you had a good base.
I had a good base, but I remember sitting down with my coach, Trisha Adams, and she said, basically what you got to start doing is doing back-to-back long rides that range from 4 to 8 hours on a Saturday and a Sunday every weekend until the event.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, and so I had 2
that's
weeks
a
in a
ton of
row.
volume.
2 weeks in a row that I did an 8-hour bike ride on a trainer. 8 hours on a trainer.
And then got back on the next day.
Yeah, and then the next day it is 6-hour bike ride. I had 2
Jesus.
2 weekends in a row, 8 hours. And so a lot of Netflix, a lot of, thoughts and, putting your brain in certain places. But it was definitely a great experience. Completed the challenge.
Yeah, how long did the challenge take you? How long were you in the bike seat?
I was on the bike for, I think it was like 16 and a half hours.
Yeah, 16 hours. Because you gave yourself, you had like a 24-hour cap to complete it.
Yes.
And I remember looking at that and I was like, I don't know if 24 hours is possible.
Yeah, and it's just this hill, and so it's a virtual world, and you just kind of go up and down, up and down. I had a strategy of kind of how much I wanted to try to chew off at a time, and dedicated every 1,000 feet to a captain, and so
Yeah, which was super
It's just
cool.
over 29,000 feet of climbing, it's interesting because just like in any event, like the first half, not too bad.
Yeah.
It's like, there's people around. I started at noon on one day. And, I had a lot of friends and family that were contacting me and my wife. She stayed until about 11 at night. And from 11 until, I think it finished at like 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it was
or
super
something
early.
like that.
I remember I was going to the gym and you
yeah.
were on the last 1,000.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
he's still going.
I had a few moments, man, where it was 2:30 in the morning and I'm in this room on my bike, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
just trying to keep the pedals going, keep the pedals going, keep the pedals going. And it was something that you just can't think about. Like I couldn't think about 29. I just had to think about the next 10 and the next 10 and the next 10. And just repeat that over and over and over, just kind of chunk it down.
Yeah, these super small goals.
But yeah, but it was a great experience. It definitely pushed me emotionally, physically. Something that I don't know that I'll do again, but
Yeah.
I'd like to try it outdoors sometime. I think that would be a fun thing to set up. But one of
That'd
the
be a
things,
super fun thing to
one of the
set
things
up.
one of the problems with doing these things is you start to get in your brain like these ideas, right?
Significant. And every time you do one,
Yeah.
while you're doing it, were you thinking about what you were going to do next? Because people are already asking you before you even start.
yeah.
Before you start, they're like, so what are you going to do after this?
Yeah,
Because they
right.
just assume that you're going to achieve this.
Yep.
Because you've done the hard work every time to achieve the goal that you set out to achieve, that it becomes an expectation that you're going to make everything happen, that you can't fail.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I'm like, if you knew the number of times I failed in training, the number of times that I was, supposed to do a 5-hour workout and I quit at 4,
Yeah.
or supposed to go 18 miles and I quit at 16, I was like, I've failed more times than I can count, and that could happen on game day.
Yeah.
One small issue and it's over potentially. So
It
like,
can.
I'm not even looking at what's next, but you get on there and you're going and you start to think,
Yeah.
what's next?
What's next? You start thinking about that. That's one of the burdens, when you do these big things. Is invariably you and then others start asking what's
Yeah.
next, right? So this definitely a what's next. I mean, this was meant to be some base training for me for the double Ironman
Yeah.
that we were trying to do, and just kind of get my butt going in terms of some winter fitness and
Yeah.
something to kind of get me through it. And so that definitely
Well, you're definitely
definitely
crushing.
helped that.
You're definitely crushing. There's no doubt in that. Everesting is it's
was-
no joke.
That was fun.
It's not
Yeah.
something I'm putting in my what's
Yeah.
next
Come
bucket
on,
right
man.
now.
Come on. You can do it.
We'll see what happens after the 100.
Turn up your virtual weight by 100 pounds, and
I know,
there you go.
right?
Right?
That's about it. That is just, it's insane. Like to think about climbing Everest on a bike trail. I don't log many winter miles because I hate training on the bike. I hate running on treadmills. So if I can't be outside, I ran all but 4.5 miles of the last 600 miles that I did leading into the world record attempt, all outside, no matter what the
ya?
conditions were, because I hate being on trainers.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
can't do the Netflix and train.
No. Yeah.
So I admire that even more because of my inability to do that. That is just remarkable that for 16 hours you just grinded.
Well, sometimes you just what kind of helps is the stupidity factor, you know.
does.
Like,
It
I think
does.
if you're dumb, it helps, you know, because you just can like kind of zone out and like, you know, my wife is always marveling at my ability to think about nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like you hear that like women think like spaghetti, men think like waffles, and sometimes men go to the nothing box. Have you ever heard of that? Like
Yep.
I'm in the nothing box right now, and sometimes you know, when you train, I mean,
You have to.
you're just going. Nothing's in your brain. You're just going. What are you thinking about? Nothing. I'm just moving.
Yep.
You know. So yeah.
It's my favorite thing. Like during the world record, I probably had 4 miles. I know I had 4 miles that I just don't remember.
Yeah.
Because I was like, because I wasn't thinking of
probably
this time.
dehydrated a little bit
I'm
and-
sure.
Yeah.
All the things that play effect, but it was like a chunk of time where I just didn't think.
Yeah.
Where I was like, just one foot in front of the other. That's all that matters right now.
Yeah.
Like,
You went into.
and just keep going.
Yep. You're just in go mode.
And you had to be in the same thing during the Everesting, or
Yep.
I bet during both of the Ironmans as well. You found
Yeah.
that place.
Yeah. I am always amazed though at there are always things that like someone told me. I heard this quote as I was training for Boulder. It was literally like days before Boulder, and I saw this somewhere. It may have been like social media or something. Like scientifically, they have proven that at end of life, the human brain retains 10% of their memories.
That's crazy.
10% of their experiences only
Yeah.
retains. So in other words, you only remember 10% of your life.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that like, what? Like really? Like
Yeah.
10%?
That seemed, yeah.
And they said one of the reasons why is that emotionally people just aren't experiencing things that have this giant emotional charge to them. You know, and like, I mean, you're never going to remember the Netflix show that you got, you know, binged
Exactly.
into and you watched, but you're going to never forget your world
Yeah.
record attempt. I mean, you're never
Exactly.
going to forget that,
Never.
even though there were times that you felt like you were going to die.
Yeah, absolutely.
This might be your last memory.
There was a good chance of that.
But I remember hearing that and just going, you know, I remember thinking at that point, like, you know, I want to fill my life with these experiences.
Yeah.
That, you know, I want to be one of those guys, and I've talked about this with a couple of my friends. Like, have you ever seen that movie called Secondhand Lions?
I have not.
It's gosh, who's in it? But anyway, it's a few acts, like Morgan Freeman's in it.
So some big names.
Maybe like
for
Danny
sure.
DeVito, Jack Nicholson.
I'll be watching it later tonight.
Oh, it's great. So these guys are older, but they're all like in their 80s and stuff, and they're all like sick and
Yeah.
But these guys, I mean, you meet them out in the world, and you think, you know, these old guys, you know, I mean, like, you know, get your car moving or, you know, check out at the grocery store. But these guys were all like Army Rangers. I mean,
Yeah.
they've all done stuff that's like badass stuff
Yeah.
in their life.
Big deal, yeah.
That you just don't know. And they're old and they're just different. But one of the scenes in the movie is they're like just sitting on this porch, like just, you know, doing the old man thing. We're just sitting there and they're just sharing stories of, hey, remember when we did that? Remember when we did that thing? I mean, that was crazy. We did that thing. We carried that 100-pound pack. We ran a marathon. I mean, those are the kind of guys, those guys you ran with. I mean, you're going to be, 90 years old on your back porch, sipping some beers going, we were badasses,
And it's a remarkable feeling. We talk about it. I'm sure you talk about it too. You're like, I can't wait for 20 years from now when like I've got super bad arthritis in my knees.
Yeah.
And we're like, remember when we did that one thing? And we talk about it now and laugh about it. And it's like, those are the memories that I want to have.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait to have those memories. Like, hopefully Chelsea and I'll be able to have kids at some point. And to be able to share those memories with like my kids, like at one point your dad was tough. He was a badass. So I think
you're teaching people to dream. You're teaching people to push. And I think that's one of the big things that people see, hopefully I hope they see when they see me. And I know they see when they see you is they go, no matter what it is, it doesn't have to be 100-mile or 100-pound pack on my back. I mean, what's your thing? What's your thing? Like find something that pushes you and challenges you and something that you're proud of and something that makes a difference and something that you'll remember and you can tell some stories about, you can tell your kids about, and you can sit on the back porch and, whatever it is. But I remember hearing that quote and I was like, oh man, like that is so powerful. Like, I don't want to remember 10. I should feel like I remember 100% of my life. I should feel like I have so many great memories and so many things I'm grateful for that I should just be like, I don't have time to tell you all the awesome stuff.
And I see that in you every time I see you. You're all smiles, like you are living a life that you've dreamt up. To the point where I would say sometimes doesn't it feel like you're almost living like a fake life that you created somehow because it's so rewarding. Like my life is so rewarding that there's numerous days where I'm like, this isn't real. Like it's that whole pinch me and wake me up.
Yeah.
And I think if you live every day with the way that you live, you're going to remember, far past 10% because you have so many emotional connections every day. Like the people you get to work with and the things you get to do, like you're one of the pages that I like actively follow because it always makes me feel good because unlike when you scroll through Facebook and you see all the news and all the crap that's on there, like if you just turn to like your page or some of the other pages that are out there, there's nothing but positivity and nothing but people helping people make the community stronger and better. And like, I remember tons of things from just from things that I've experienced with you or with MTT that I don't know how you couldn't remember. You're going to easily be upwards of 50%, I would think, just because of the experiences you've had. And I mean, it's remarkable the things that you've accomplished, been able to do. The support crew around you, and you've created. As we talked about before, we fired up the cameras and the microphones. Like your goal was to go out and create a movement of helping others, helping people with disabilities. And you did that like to a point that isn't even describable. I mean, you guys are global now, with what you're doing to help others. And that, I mean, I don't even know how to put it to words. Like we in HUA have, followed your guys' guidance and blueprint for like how to spread and how to help more people. And it's crazy. Like talk about the growth going from you, your wife and Mary was the start of MTT.
Yep.
And now, it's insane.
It has been tremendous. And, every phase of the journey is different. I have learned a lot over the last, 8+ years now. 10 if you think about before when we just were running with Mary. It's something that has taken a ton of passion and awesome people. I mean, we have had, I feel like Tiffany and I get way too much credit for where the organization is. I'm sure sometimes you feel this way with
It's the
HUA.
same way. I feel that way every
Right?
time because it's not me. It's the people that surrounded me.
Yeah.
that push-hua, I just happen to be the face of it
Yeah.
the majority of the time.
I mean, I think if there's one thing I want to do is I want to create this group. I want to be around people. I want to attract people, and I want to be around people that have this high standard of impact. Like, it's not like high standard of living, but it's around like, what am I going to do with my life, and who do I want to be, and that was something that we were always trying to do. And so, like, when you take on that mindset, you kind of ride this line. At least I felt like we've always rode this line in MTT of like super awesome engaged energy and burnout, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
you know, because like it is a fine line. I mean, one day you can feel like, I mean, like you look at the Cellcom. I mean,
Yeah.
like when we had a big team there, our
huge
crew
team
and
doing
so many,
multiple
our crew, our
events.
staff. I mean, so many people are putting in. I mean, we were there the night before. We're setting up our big tent. We're executing the whole thing. People are putting it on, and there's so much passion
Yeah.
that you walk away and you're just like exhausted. You are just so exhausted. It's a good exhaustion, but you're still so tired.
Yeah, I believe it.
And that's part of the challenge. It kind of ties into what we talked about earlier. But we've had such incredible people that have given so much of their time, their expertise. We have incredible partners that believe in what we're trying to do at MTT. We've definitely had our challenges. We still have our challenges. I mean, there are days, honestly, where I have to, you talk about being gratitude and being grateful and looking at, all the positive things. Like there are days where I have to say to myself, okay, forget about that. Just focus on what's good. Forget about that. Just focus on what's good. And, we definitely don't live in this kind of magical world of like, it just works,
Yeah, 'cause it doesn't
it's
just
not
work.
an easy button. I mean, being in the nonprofit world, like, you have to really work hard to keep your cause, top of mind to people.
Relevant, like the news, to get the media to cover stuff.
Yep.
Like you've got to be out doing something
Yes.
stupid.
It takes a ton of effort, some stupid stuff.
Yeah.
You have to continually innovate. You have to put in so much time and energy. But if you have the people that are passionate about it, you almost don't even need to ask. You just like, this is what we need to do, and people are in. So it's definitely evolved so much. I mean, I'm grateful because when we started, about 2 years after we started the organization, I thought to myself, this is something I want to do as a career.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that, for the past few years, since the beginning of 2015, this has become my full time. And now I'm able to do that. We have 2 other full-time staff that are part of the team. And that's a whole nother evolution when you start to bring on other people and you become an employer. That's that's a whole other fun problem.
With your logistics, I couldn't imagine doing it without full-time staff. I can't believe you do it with 3 full-time staff and not 15 or 20.
Yeah.
Because 500 captains, 50 races, like that is a ton of logistics. Like how many vehicles do you guys have right now just for getting transporting things like?
Yeah.
I mean,
we have 2 trucks, a van, we have 5 trailers, and they're all kind of deployed around the state right now.
yeah, they're always being used.
Yep,
like,
always.
constant.
I mean, every week we have a training run in every one of our regions, basically from April through October.
And maintenance, like all of the equipment, all those chairs need routine maintenance. It's not, I tune my bike every 3 weeks. Like, and that's just my bike.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
It's a lot of work.
You're talking, the last thing you want to do is have a chair fail in an event, and not be able to change out the tire on it or something like that because you don't want a captain to fail.
Right.
That would be my biggest worry. I don't know what your biggest concern is, but my biggest worry would be having a captain fail, and having them deal with that.
Yeah.
And so there's a bunch of logistics that when I watch the Cellcom, and that's just one marathon, and you've got teams. You'll have a team at mile 10, a team at mile 15, a team at mile 6, like all pushing because they're all at different speeds. And it's just, I'm like, I don't know how you keep up. And I'll see you out there along the way as I would pass, wherever you're at. And I'm like, how you doing? And you can just see you're like, we're still rolling.
Yeah.
It's super cool to see.
It is. It is awesome. Love being a part of it. It's definitely our calling. Tiffany and I feel it's our calling. We wouldn't trade it. It's defined who we are, and it's become a big part of our family. We're expecting our first child, and we want them to feel part of this community as well.
Congratulations.
And thank you. Yeah. And it's important for me that they're interacting with our captains, and they have this deeper sense of, life isn't just what they see on TV or, just what's in Green Bay or whatever. And, they have that deeper understanding and appreciation for life. And
They'll have I can only imagine. And that's the one thing that I'm super excited about, if we're fortunate to have a kid, is the fact that putting a child in those scenarios where they can start to tear down the stigmas at a young age should have, and I honestly believe it will have, tremendous roll down effects to when they're in school, to cutting down on bullying and kids helping kids. Like, as you tear down those stigmas, because your child is surrounded by people that live with those stigmas. Like, I think that the impacts that kid will have in his school and in his community will be so astronomical. It's one of the things that just excites me most is I feel like a lot of people don't put their kids in those scenarios out of fear, because had I not have shown up to a My Team Triumph event and experienced some of those disabilities and how that they're not really, yes, there might be a physical limiting disability, but their personality is still the same. They're still a great person who just wants to have fun and enjoy life. And I wouldn't have exposed my child to that before that experience. And I think that is super powerful. When I see little kids out there interacting with the MTT teams, I'm like, that is awesome. Great job, parents. Like, thank you for exposing your children to some of these disabilities or stigmas and eliminating those stigmas, at a young age, to help our community as a whole and help reduce the bullying and all the things that might possibly lead to these huge tragedies that we see. And so I think that's super powerful, and I can't wait to see what happens with your child going through that experience, as they hit those ages of 7, 8, 9, 10, and they start to have those influences. Like, I'm excited to see it first.
Thank you. Yeah, so are we.
So I think that's super cool. Well, so we talked about the what's next. The double Ironman. That is crazy. That's crazy. I'm doing one this year. I'm doing Madison again, and I'm like, training for it. I couldn't imagine getting up the next morning and doing another one.
Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a double swim. We're going to do just kind of double each of the distances. We're not going to do one and then another one. Yeah. So it's going to be, 4.8 mile swim, 225, whatever, 224 mile bike ride, and then a 52.4 mile run.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So, we initially were going to do our own event, and then we were going to there are events out there that have this.
There's quite a few of them. I actually looked at them. There was one down in Florida that's the triple.
It's called Triple Anvil.
Yeah, that I looked at, just like, I was like, let's just peek at this, because I'm looking for what's next things. And I told myself, we're not at that level. let's look somewhere else.
Not quite yet.
Because it's crazy, because they do the 3 swims together, and you don't stop until it's all done.
Right.
Some of them break it down over 3 days, but some of them you can roll through the night and all that, and you got to have a crew and all sorts of things. So is what you're looking at doing, is that going to be 24 hours straight through, or obviously more than that? It'll be probably 36, I would guess.
Yeah, I think it's going to be over 2 days, 2 or so days, and we'll probably build in some quick naps in there. Our captain's going to be Katie Newman, who's done Ironman.
Nice, awesome.
She's done Ironman. She's done a 100-mile road race as a captain.
Wow.
She's walked a mile. She's done our Triumph Mile event, which is a 1 mile,
Yeah, it's one of the
and she
greatest
walks
events.
it. It's awesome.
I think
And
I think honestly, I think that's cooler than an Ironman
oh,
to go and experience.
it's so cool.
So as cool as
Yeah.
like watching you do Ironman, going and seeing the Triumph Mile
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah. And she was one of our first that did it with her walker, and it took her like 3.5, 4 hours to do this mile.
Yeah, that's
I mean, it's like,
insane.
and she was just beat. I mean, she's so tough and so
Yeah.
strong and so inspiring, and love being around her. And so we're gonna do it with her. It's gonna be my friend Adam and Aaron and I, and of course our wives as our support. And so we're still trying to figure out all the details, but that'll be a fun journey.
Dude, that's awesome. We
Yeah.
might have to bring you guys all back on the podcast, all of
Yeah.
you guys, and
Yeah.
do one, right before or right after. Probably right before to help with the fundraising stuff because I'm sure you'll be doing a fundraiser
Yep.
for it. So,
Yep.
which is huge.
Yeah.
That's critical because it's what makes the ability for us to help
Yeah.
more and more and more is you got to have the funds.
Yep. You do. You do.
That's
And
awesome.
sometimes there's there's a level of like exhaustion sometimes.
Yeah.
Both being a fundraiser as being someone that's being asked. But I always tell people, I mean, the need is far more than we'll
Absolutely.
ever serve.
Yeah.
Like when I tell people, like there are 20% of the population has a disability.
Yeah.
They're like,
it's
where?
crazy.
Where are these people? Like, you just don't. Part of it is just not looking,
Yeah.
but part of it is some of these folks, they might be living in a group home, or they're living in a family situation, and one could not blame them, but some of the families feel it's hard. When you have a son or daughter with a disability, you get people that look at you and they stare and they
Absolutely.
talk differently, or they don't talk, or they treat you differently. And that's so hard. And I tell you, one of the, some of the biggest heroes that I encounter are honestly the families,
Yeah.
the moms and dads who dedicate so much of their time and energy to just being there 100% of the time, whatever that person needs. These are some of the biggest heroes that I know of. And I mean, I think, even in an Ironman, we're going to spend 17 hours together, you and I.
Yeah.
But then, your parent has to, she's been up all day as well.
Yeah,
And
'cause
then
they
they're
got you
going back
there.
to the hotel, and it's not like,
Yeah.
all right, let's just go, like, I'll go back to the hotel and just plop into the bed. I
Yeah.
might not even take a shower,
Yeah. No, exactly.
but it's going to be 1 or 2 hours for them to help, this athlete or this
Yeah.
individual be ready and do their thing. And then they got to take care of themselves, and it's just constant. And so, it's hard. And the more that they can feel comfortable to kind of get out there and have an experience that's exciting and
Yeah.
fun, and it's fun, and they don't have to worry. They can have a little time to say, that's your thing. You go do your thing. You spend time with your friends. I don't have to worry so much about, who's there and are they going to care for you. And that's really important to us.
Yeah. And I can't imagine, it's one of the things that like Chelsea and I have talked about a few times is like, if you have a child with a disability, like how do you attack it right away to provide your child the best life possible? And the one thing I tell people is there's a million resources out there. Just ask for help. A lot of people, the stigmas around a lot of the disabilities, people are afraid to ask for help. They're afraid to even go look, and they go into denial and say, my son or daughter doesn't have X, Y, or Z, or as a person themselves, as they, like with Mary, where she didn't get diagnosed with muscular dystrophy until in her 20s. Once you start seeing the signs of that, you need to go in, like she did, and start trying to figure out what is wrong so that you can put a plan in place or still provide yourself the best possible life. And that's what Mary's done. She's given herself the best possible life she can under those circumstances, I honestly think. And she did that all because she had the determination to succeed. Like, you can deal me this bad hand, but I'm going to find a way to succeed with it.
Yeah.
And she's done that. And I think that that's super powerful.
It is. And I've learned a lot of what these families go through, and I would say that the individuals or the families that are really thriving are ones that are really diehard self advocates.
Yeah.
And like you talk about Mary, I mean Mary won't even think about accessibility when she goes to a place. I mean, here's a woman that goes on cruises, she flies. I mean, she does all these things, and she just like she's a leap before looking kind of person. She doesn't
Yeah.
say, "All right, can I go in that place?" She just like shows up, and then she figures out a way, by getting help from that person or this person. And so I have discovered in knowing so many of these individuals that they have to be really diehard advocates. They have to, in some ways, at some times, really fight for the services that they need. This is one of our. There are a lot of services, but there still are a lot of problems,
Absolutely.
especially around like personal care. Like, if someone's independent and they live in their own home or their own apartment or whatever, and they need help, they have a disability, they have to rely on, in various levels, they have to rely on, caregivers coming over to their place and helping them out. And sometimes it's just, I just need you for 10 minutes a day. Sometimes it's, I need you all day.
Yeah.
It depends on the person. And then there's transportation. If this person wants to have a life outside of their home and they don't have the ability to drive themselves, or they don't have a family member that lives with them that can transport them, they have to, engage with a myriad of public transportation, private transportation, friends, family, strangers, all these different things that are sometimes kind of risky.
Yeah.
Sometimes, are can at many times be very unreliable, because it's kind of like when you get cable. It's like, hey, I need a ride at 5 o'clock. It's like, okay, well, we'll be there between 2 and 7.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and
That's crazy.
and part of the reason why that is there's honestly a shortage of supports in certain areas for people with disabilities. And so, I mean, I know a number of our captains, like weekends for the average person is like playtime. I mean, think about this last weekend we had. It was
Yeah,
gorgeous.
Memorial Day,
We had
yeah.
the holiday weekend. People were out. I know a lot of our captains who they never got outside because no one was available on the weekends on a holiday to come and help them.
Yeah, that's so sad.
And you don't think about that. You think,
didn't-
God,
yeah.
everyone's outside, but there's a lot of people that just aren't able to experience that if they're not able to get them for
Yeah,
themselves.
I didn't think about it until you just said it.
Yeah.
So,
So
like, we all have time.
Yeah.
Like, anybody could have gone and given a little bit of time.
it's tough,
Yeah,
and
it is.
it's a big debate too. Because then you get into things like, independence, living in your own home versus living in a supportive care environment.
Yeah.
What's better? I mean, there's all sorts of different debates that go on about that.
I can only imagine.
It's a tough, and there's a lot of things that need to take place, I think, in the near future, and it's not an easy problem to solve. It's tied in closely with the healthcare issues in the country, and because everything costs money, and where's that going to come from? And so there's all different debates on that, but
But you're providing a better life for these people, and I hope you know that. I'm
hopefully,
pretty
yeah.
confident that you know that. But like, you and anybody that comes and helps out with MTT is providing a better life for all of those people. And that impact is tremendous. And if you haven't experienced it, go and just watch an event, and you will see the smile on the captain's face, the smile on the angel's face, and the aura that just like goes when it goes by you, when they pass you, it floors you. It brings you down a level almost of like, wow, that is just it's beautiful.
It is.
It's beyond amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing people. And, I'll tell people all the time too. Some people are intimidated because they say, oh my gosh, there's no way I can do that, or I'm not an Ironman or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't need to be. It's not as hard as people think. And you don't have to be a great athlete. You just have to have a big heart.
Yeah. You can do a 5K.
Walk, run, jog, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's not about how fast you go. It's about the relationship.
Exactly.
And that's the journey, that you get to have together. So yeah.
100%. All right. Well, the last thing that I want to ask you, because we ask it in every episode, is to define the word unbreakable to you, or as you see it with the captains. Like, how do you feel about the word unbreakable when you hear, you're unbreakable or somebody's unbreakable, or how do you feel about that?
I would say that when I think of the word unbreakable, right now in my life, it's about being vulnerable. Like I tie vulnerability with unbreakable, and what I mean by that is, I don't think being unbreakable means that you are just kind of pushing out, like any sort of pain you're feeling or any sort of discomfort, or, you're just ignoring, your body. It's allowing yourself to be in situations that are uncomfortable. If we just did things that we knew we would be successful at, we'd probably never do anything important, right? I mean, so you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to say, I'm going to go and do something, and I may screw it up. I may not know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a physical act, right? I mean, it could be, I want to go for a new promotion, or I want to apply for a new job, or whatever it is. It's okay that you don't feel like you're going to make it, because everyone feels that way. The person that makes it is the one that says, despite feeling like I'm not going to make it, I'm still going to go for it. That's, to me, what it means to be unbreakable. So you got to be vulnerable, and you got to be willing to, even though you don't feel like you can accomplish something, just take that first step and just go for it. And don't worry about it. You'll probably learn along the way. That's something that when we started MTT, we had no clue. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I
know that feeling.
There are so many times where I have to humble myself and say, you don't have to have the right answer. You just have to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And so it's important, if we stopped and said, I don't know anything about this, I'm not going to start a nonprofit. Yeah, we never would have done it. But, every great idea starts with someone doing something that they never knew that they could do.
True,
And we're all kind of given the same abilities, but the belief system is what I think makes people unbreakable. Be vulnerable, step outside, and be willing to put yourself out there, and be willing to kind of just expose yourself, and just be okay with people seeing who you are. If you don't do something, or it's not about how you look, it's about not regretting what you didn't try.
Yeah, I think that's the absolute perfect definition. Especially when I look at like you, and all of the things that I've seen you do, you had to be super vulnerable. You had to know that there was a good chance of failure, and that's a scary thing. And you stepped out and took the first step towards, those achievements, or becoming unbreakable. And each time you become more and more unbreakable. But at the same time, I would say also more and more vulnerable, because you're taking on a double Ironman now, something that nobody does. Like very, very few people do. Much like Everesting. And so that vulnerability leads you to these huge, milestones of success and unbreakableness. And I think that that's especially looking at you and now thinking about it myself. Like I've never thought about the word vulnerable with unbreakable, but they very much fit. You have to have one, or you'll never get to the other. So I think that's a perfect definition. Was there anything else you wanted to add to the podcast before we?
Oh man, just thanks for having me on. Congratulations to you on your
Thanks.
world
Yeah.
record,
And congrats to
and
you on the upcoming child as well.
thank you. And I just love what you and who are doing, and just keep it going, man.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
just
Same
just
to you.
keep innovating and keep striving, and I'm just excited to see what the future brings for you guys.
Same to you. Same to you. And
you.
MTT, man. It's so much fun to watch both you as an individual and the organization itself just continue to grow. And it constantly inspires me. So when you were Everesting, I was like, and I knew the world record was coming. I was like, man, I love it. Like he pumps me up, gets me super excited.
Yep.
So I think it's awesome. So stay hungry,
Awesome.
keep after it.
Thank you, Will.
And together, you and I will stay unbreakable. So all of you out there, stay unbreakable. Tune in for future episodes. And thanks for tuning in. I'll have the MTT website up on here the whole time as well. So you guys can type that in and check out what it's all about. Sign up, volunteer, help out. Or if you know somebody with a disability, refer them as a captain, or donate to help them continue their mission. And I will be back out there again very soon, helping them out as well. So thanks, guys, for tuning in, and stay unbreakable. Thank you.